Hey y'all, my name is William. I'm a OCD survivor. I'm a OCD therapist in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm the president of OCD Twin Cities, which is the Minnesota affiliate of OCD Foundation. Um, my truth, what I wanted to share was related to something that happens in my practice all the time. I have clients who are suffering from OCD and they really want to not suffer. And when it comes time to do exposures, um, turns out that there's actually a lot more ambivalence about doing exposures than perhaps we initially thought. And one thing I share with my clients is I knew that I had OCD and that I was supposed to do exposures for 3 years before I ever ended up doing exposures. And it, it's not that I wasn't doing exposures because I thought, oh well, maybe it's not OCD or maybe I should do something else. No, I knew I had OCD. I knew I should be doing exposures, and I was just too scared to do the exposures. And part of the reason I was so scared was the way my intrusive thoughts came at me when I was even considering doing exposures or otherwise not compulsively behaving was it got pretty mean. My longest theme area was that I was going to die from rabies. That was related to intrusive thoughts that maybe I was bit by a rabid bat and I didn't know it. And so my compulsions were I was scanning the ground anytime I walked anywhere. If I saw objects on the ground, I had to stop and examine them. If I had my phone with me, I'd have to take a picture, many pictures sometimes. And so exposures for me included walking around outside and not examining objects on the ground. But when I would step closer to doing the exposure, my intrusive thoughts would say stuff like, well, you don't know for sure that wasn't a bat on the ground that you just walked by. Um, the very famous intrusive thought for me was maybe this is the one time that you actually needed to check. Um, and then it got even kind of more mean. It was my intrusive thoughts would say, William, you've already spent 7 years being really, really careful about rabies. Are you really willing to put all of that time and effort that you spent being careful about rabies into jeopardy now? Because if you stop the compulsions now and then you end up dying of rabies, all those 7 years you spent are going to be for nothing. It's going to be completely wasted. So you have to keep checking. And one of the reasons that I bring this up is because it was when I finally found a way to challenge those kind of thoughts, I was able to actually get my exposures in. And for me, it just happened to be the case when those intrusive thoughts came in and said, you don't know for sure, all that time you spent being safe is going to be wasted. I was able to say, no, it's not going to be wasted. Of course I don't want to die from rabies, and of course my chances of dying of rabies are really, really low. But even if it's the case that I do end up dying of rabies because I don't check that piece of garbage on the ground, it won't be wasted because at least I went down fighting against my OCD, which had taken control of my life for so many years. So that's my truth. I hope y'all will be brave in your own exposures.